Welcome to The Rainbow Connection. This podcast was designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Whether you're grieving, trying to conceive again, newly pregnant, or holding hope in your heart for what's to come, this space is for you. Each week you'll hear real and tender stories of love, heartbreak, healing, and the babies who continue to shape us. I'm your host, Kristin Mundy, a mother, doula, and a woman who's walked this path too. May these conversations remind you that you are not alone, that your baby is never forgotten, and that hope and grief can live here together. Are you trying to conceive after loss, or maybe thinking about trying to conceive after loss? I know this journey can feel so incredibly heavy, lonely, and overwhelming at times. The hopes, the fears, the grief. It can really feel like no one truly understands what you are actually carrying. And that's exactly why I created Mother Like No Other, a nurturing, flourishing community for women navigating this tender season. Here, you are not just joining a group. You are stepping into a space where your feelings are held, your experiences are understood, and your journey is honored. You'll connect with other lost moms who truly get it, learn practical tools to help you through those really hard days, and gain guidance from me and other guest speakers on the topics you're really wanting to learn. Each month, we come together for a learning workshop where we dive into topics like grounding strategies, self-advocacy, and nurturing your mind, body, and soul. It's a place to feel supported, to grow, and to prepare for the journey ahead without judgment, without pressure, and without long-term commitment. For only $22 a month, you can join when you need it most. If you're ready to feel seen, held, and understood, come join us. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/motherlikenoother. I hope to see you inside. Welcome back to the Rainbow Connection. I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest, someone whose work has profoundly shaped not only this community of listeners, but also my own path, Dr. Jessica Zucker. Jessica is a Los Angeles-based psychologist specializing in reproductive and maternal mental health and the creator of the viral #IHadAMiscarriage campaign. She's also the author of 2 transformative books, I Had a Miscarriage, and her newest release, Normalize It. Her campaign was one of the first spaces where I felt truly seen after my own miscarriage. It gave me permission to open up and share something that I didn't even realize I carried shame around, and ultimately inspired me to begin telling my own story. Crazy, right? So to sit down with her now, after all these years, feels deeply like a full circle moment. In this conversation, we talk about her own experience of pregnancy loss and how it became the spark behind a global movement. We explore the deeper layers of silence, shame, and grief, and that so many of us women carry, and what it truly means to normalize those experiences, not just around miscarriage, but across every stage of girlhood and womanhood. Jessica's voice is one of compassion, of clarity, and of courage. Her words have rippled through thousands of women's lives now, including my own, and this episode is an invitation to keep that ripple going. Okay, now enough from me. Let's hear from Dr. Jessica Zucker. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rainbow Connection. Today we have a special guest. We have Dr. Jessica Zucker, and she is going to sit down and chat with us today, and I'm really excited to have her on. She is a Los Angeles-based psychologist who specializes in reproductive health and is the author of an award-winning book, Normalize It. We're going to dig into her new book, Normalize It. And also, I Had a Miscarriage, a memoir, a movement, and she's also the creator of the viral I Had a Miscarriage campaign. And well, before we dig into that, hi, Jessica. Thanks for being here.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to spend this time with you.
Before we press record, I said, I feel like I know you already because I've followed you for so long. And, before we dive in, I just wanted to say, on a personal note, I had a miscarriage, and that campaign, really deeply impacted me, and it put into, action everything that is happening today. Like I was really struggling to name a lot of things, and that book helped me. And I know so many others feel the same. So I just want to say thank you so much for writing it, because it really was one of the things too that, inspired me to open up about my first miscarriage. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that. I mean, it means the world to me to hear, how much it really impacted you, and that it kind of rippled into other areas of your life and what you're doing now. So that means the world to hear that.
Thank you. My first question that I have here is, what even led you? I mean, you are very personal in that book, but for whoever hasn't read it, I would love to hear, like, what led you to even write I Had a Miscarriage, both as a memoir and, as the beginning of a new movement.
All right. Well, how much time do you have? Because it's quite a story. Well, so I am a Los Angeles-based psychologist. I specialize in women's reproductive and maternal 19 years at this point. But prior to pursuing my PhD, I worked in international women's health. So I focused on reproductive health, but in a variety of other countries and contexts. And at the time, I was simply passionate about all things women, all things women's health. I had yet to live through something that had informed those passions until I did. So 16 weeks into my second pregnancy, I had a miscarriage while I was home by myself. And I had been sitting across from women and families who had lost pregnancies, had stillbirths, went through infant loss, terminated for medical reasons, the whole gamut. And I had been hearing about the anguish and the feelings of isolation and alienation for years upon years. And although I felt well versed in the topic, I had read all the books, I had gone to the conferences, I had been to the trainings, until I went through it firsthand from a corporeal perspective, I could not fully understand. I could not fully sort of comprehend the enormity and the profundity of the experience. And it was at that time that I inadvertently, like it wasn't this kind of pre-planned thing like, ooh, I'm going to start a movement, not at all. I just felt so impassioned. I felt like it was incumbent upon me to use my story as an example for women around the world and compassionately invite them to do the same. And so I think it was back in October of 2014 is when I launched the I Had a Miscarriage. Oh my goodness, what? It was back in 2014 when I launched the I Had a Miscarriage campaign with my first New York Times piece. And in it, I'm holding a sign. You cannot see my face because I wanted people to sort of envision themselves holding this sign as well. But I'm holding a sign that says hashtag I Had a Miscarriage. And the piece really delineates my experience and also calls out the research that a majority of women are feeling a sense of self-blame, shame, and body failure in the aftermath of loss. And in this piece, I am hoping to galvanize voices around the globe to join me in breaking this ubiquitous silence, in kind of changing the zeitgeist when it comes to talking openly about pregnancy and infant loss.
Because it's not like it's sad, but it's not like it's an uncommon thing. Like studies show us that 1 out of 4 women experience, or 1 out of 4 pregnancies end in loss. And
exactly. And it's not going anywhere. I mean, that's the other thing. So my second book, Normalize It, is, really sort of trying to get at this notion that the sooner we talk about the tough stuff, the sooner we can feel embodied and emboldened to talk about the pain points that we navigate as humans, right? So trying to really normalize talking about topics that we can't necessarily avoid. And as you just said, right, 1 in 4 pregnancies results in miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
not like there's a cure. It's not like this is a disease. This isn't something that's going away. And what's the number? 1 in 7, I think, couples struggle with
Infertility.
fertility. Right.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 1 in 160 with stillbirth. So it's like these are things that are going to be around forever. So the sooner we get comfortable talking about these uncomfortable things, the sooner we can commune around these incredibly heartbreaking topics.
Mm-hmm. I like that you pointed out too that a lot of these women struggle with, feeling a certain way about their body letting them down and feeling shame. Because that quote that comes to mind is like, sharing our stories is where shame goes to die. And obviously, that's what this podcast is about, because it's true. There are so many women and people struggling in silence because of this stigma, and that doesn't need to be there, obviously, because it's such a huge percentile of us, and it isn't going anywhere. And if anything, it could even get worse, right, with how society is going. I'm wondering, like, since this campaign started, have you seen any, cultural conversations or stigma? Have you seen like any big shifts personally?
I'm a hard person to ask that about, I think, because I'm so in it. It's like
Mm-hmm.
my vision of a future includes people walking around talking about miscarriage like they're talking about what they're going to have for dinner that night. And so
Mm-hmm.
has it changed that much? Absolutely not. But have we seen profound strides in celebrities opening up about it, and therefore, others feeling less alone and less ashamed and less stigmatized? For sure. I do think
Mm-hmm.
that the conversation has shifted, but I think I'm in a unique position because I want so badly for it to be fully normalized that my expectations might be a little off there.
Mm-hmm. And you're in that world too,
Yes.
right? So you probably are exposed to a lot of the people that do want to talk about it. It's funny, since I launched this podcast, and I'm wondering if you see it as a generational thing too, because I feel like the younger generation is getting more and more comfortable talking about it.
Yes.
But I have women come on this podcast who had a loss 20 plus years ago. And back then, like, we didn't talk about it at all. Like, it was like way more stigmatized. And now they're finding like this permission and inspiration to finally like open up and tell their story and share about their pregnancy loss or their baby. And it's just like such a collective healing. I feel that this is continuing, right? And I'm
Yes.
all for it.
I will say that, as much as we can poo-poo social media and talk about the hardships that it can incur, I think for the pregnancy loss community, this has been incredibly sort of inviting and has made us more cohesive. More people seem to be coming out that way and sharing their story. Now, if you've read Normalize It, the crux of the book is really, again, about sharing our important stories. However, I want to be sure to say not everybody has to start a campaign. Not everybody has to get on a rooftop or a TED Talk stage,
Or on
right?
a podcast.
Or a podcast even, or on
Mm-hmm.
social media. So if you have, for any of your listeners, if you have a story to share and you don't want to share it publicly, I am all for that.
Mm-hmm.
Privacy, if that is what you're choosing, as long as you feel like you're choosing it from a place of, this is something for me, and it's not because, oh, I feel ashamed and therefore I don't want to talk about it. I still think that moving it through our bodies and validating it through seeing it on the page, for example, can be incredibly important and healing. So,
Mm-hmm.
I use this as an example in the book, journaling. If somebody has a story that they don't want to get published or they don't want to even share, let's say, with a family member or a friend, put it on the page. You can burn that journal. You don't have to share it with anybody. But the point is, psychologically speaking, we want to be sure that we are moving our pain points, our anxieties, our, depressive tendencies, potentially, whatever the case may be. We want to be able to move the feelings through us so that they don't become disorders, so that they don't back up on us and we find ourselves so cut off or so lonely or so ashamed, because it seems to be that the more we keep inside, the more it morphs into shame. Right? And so if we can move our stories through us, whether it's sitting with a therapist or talking to our partners or, doing it in some public fashion, we can see that we find more connection, more points of emotional intimacy.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I do know, just speaking from my own personal experience and even from, my clients and my guests that come on here, is writing it down or sharing it out loud, whatever it might be for you. It also is a, part of processing too. Like there's things that you might not remember or that you haven't, put into consideration or, like it really is a whole layer of uncovering.
Exactly.
I'm wondering, like, for those who don't do that, let's just say like we're one of the people that are avoiding it and maybe we are feeling like a sense of shame. Where do you see, as a psychologist, like where do you see that often leading towards? Like what are some of the risks of not sharing, I guess, or just keeping it in a place that isn't empowering and sacred to our heart, but just in a place where we don't have that freedom maybe, or we can't go there? What do you usually see?
I mean, it's a great question, and it really is so unique to each individual, of course. But, my sort of concern is that I talk about this in both books, this strident trifecta of cultural silence leading to societal stigma, and then ultimately that leading to feelings of shame. And the shame as a psychologist is what concerns me in a major way, because the shame can, as I was saying earlier, lead to feelings of depression, anxiety, can lead to intractable disorders, and can sort of manifest in ways that are unhealthy for the individual. And yet, I get it. Not everybody wants to be in therapy. Not everybody wants to, journal or do things like this. I think that for people who don't want to be public but are feeling a sense of shame or isolation, what feels most comfortable for you in terms of allowing those things to shift a little bit? Right? And would it be, for example, taking a walk and even thinking about the experience? Right? So again, does it have to be in writing? Does it have to be public? Does it have to be on a stage? It doesn't. But it has to be acknowledged. Our pain has to be acknowledged in order to not turn into something else altogether. And my fear is that it can become an albatross, right? If we let enough shame bubble up within us, it can sort of eat us whole. And we don't want that. So small ways, small steps of acknowledging, validating, leaning into our pain and our grief can go a long way.
Now, what would you say if you were, a loved one who is watching their person, going through loss, going through miscarriage? How would you, how can communities or care providers even just do a better job in supporting those people who have gone through reproductive loss so that they don't feel like they have to keep it all up inside?
I mean, I think this is the best question of all time because it feels like, isn't this easy? But,
Mhm.
and yet it seems to evade people when it comes to actually supporting their friends and their loved ones in the aftermath of loss. Why is that? Okay, so
Mhm.
my hunch is that culture is so uncomfortable talking about grief that, and it's trickled down right to the individual. We think that if we focus on them moving forward or getting past this or the silver lining, these are all in air quotes.
I was just gonna say this is air quote if
Yeah,
anyone's listening.
because these are not the things that I necessarily believe in at all. I think that people focus on silver linings as a way to not kind of have to fall into the pain themselves. So again,
Mm.
it's not a conscious process, but I think that people unconsciously are so uncomfortable, especially when it's a loved one. I mean, you don't want your loved
Mhm.
ones to be in pain or to be in
Mhm.
fear or anxiety or dread or, self-hate even.
You wanna fix it. You wanna
Yes,
make it
you
better,
do.
right?
You want it to be better,
Mhm.
but we cannot take other people's pain away.
Mhm.
And we should all sort of be conversant in that because we know that no one can take our pain away, right?
Mhm.
So, my invitation, my hope is that people can actually dare themselves to lean into it rather than trying to eschew it. Because
Mm.
when we distance ourselves from it, when we try to minimize it, oh, at least you can get pregnant. Oh, at least you have a healthy child. Oh, you have a thriving career. The minimization of pain can really erode trust and therefore the connective tissue in a relationship.
Oh, yes, that safety is damaged, right?
Exactly. And you kind of
Mhm.
can't unknow that. I mean, I don't know if you
Mhm.
had that experience after your loss, but
Oh
it's
my
like,
god. Of course I did.
yeah. And I mean, it's like these are sort of in these bubbles highlighted, right, for the rest of
Mhm.
time. Even if we want to forget that people said
Mhm.
inappropriate things to us, it is so hard to unhear that or unsee these types of interactions. Can we ask ourselves, can I just be uncomfortable with this person? I love this person enough to inch toward their pain rather than move away from it. And what can I
Mhm.
do to show up? It is, I think, so much easier than all of these platitudes that we throw around. So, can we say, I'm here for you and mean it?
Mhm. I
Can
think people
we?
really are just so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And they just want not just the other person to feel better, but they want to feel better because the
That's
other
right.
person, like, they're so uncomfortable with someone else feeling uncomfortable.
I know, but like as I've gotten older, I just feel like, wait, we all know through lived experience that you cannot get through life unscathed.
No.
And so, why are we trying to clean up messes or clean up issues, clean up grief when
Mhm.
they don't need to be? And we are bound to go through it as well. And so, I think it's partly when we haven't been through it, we desperately just want to make it go away. And then sometimes when people have gone through it, they can show up a little bit more easily. Sometimes, though, and I take this on in both of my books, we can kind of unfortunately get into this comparison game.
Mm.
Whose grief is more griefy? Whose pain is more powerful? No
Mhm.
one wins in the grief Olympics. We do not need to go there. We do not need to, compare and contrast loss.
Mhm.
We need to ask ourselves, can I show up for people like I would want them to show up for me?
Yeah, like, can I take my crap out of this, right?
Exactly.
It's not about me, it's about them right now.
Yes. And I think, can we also hold ourselves to a higher standard and say, you know what, I'm not going to just ask today. I'm going to follow up in a week or a day
Mm.
or a month and a year,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. And we don't want to make any assumptions. Some people don't want to keep talking about it, whereas others do. And any of those options are, very legitimate and real. And so sometimes it does also take us asking the question, what can I do for you? If you want to talk about this, I'm here for you. I'm going to ask about it because I care about you, but I might even put my foot in my mouth and ask the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, but I love you and I'm going to keep trying.
Mm-hmm. I always say like clarity is kindness. And like if you want to show up for somebody, like we're not expecting perfect you to show up perfectly. You can show up imperfect. Just be clear that you are trying and that you are doing your best and you're there and you care. And like it could be as simple as that. And
That's
I
great.
love that you
Love.
said that. Yeah, and I love that you said that it's so hard to like kind of unravel some things that have been done because like when you've lost your pregnancy or your baby and you're like in that very vulnerable space, it is really like searching for who is safe and who is not. And when you've shown someone that you have been unsafe, it's really hard to undo that. But something like someone, following up in a week, in a month, or however that may be, it could be something so simple that can make or break
That's right.
that person's experience. Like it can be so simple.
And the opposite of this is true as well. We can
I
be,
was just going to say,
we
like,
can be surprised by a random neighbor who we just happen to tell that we went through this, and they then open up about their experience, or they somehow are like bringing food on a daily basis and seem to be capable of really going the distance. And we've just made a new friend that we never thought we would, So I do think, unfortunately, trauma can bring about a lot of surprises in relationships.
shifts, big shifts for sure. I always say those people kind of come out of the woodwork, right? And you're like, oh, okay, like didn't see this coming, but While we take a quick break, I wanted to introduce you to The Haven, my signature 12-week support program for mothers who are pregnant again after miscarriage, TFMR, stillbirth, or infant loss. The Haven isn't just a course. It's a trauma-informed, community-centered space that includes weekly live workshops, expert guest speakers, and ongoing support from me, your dedicated pregnancy after loss doula, anytime you need it. You'll also receive one-on-one check-ins, guided journaling prompts, full access to my birth course Reclaim, and a warm, intimate community of other pal mothers. A place where you can truly be real, be held, and be reminded that you are never alone in this. Our fall cohort begins this September and enrollment is now open. Find all the details at thedoulalife.ca/the-haven. Inside the Haven, your baby is remembered, your voice is honored, and you are fully supported every step of the way. I will gladly take the friendship.
Exactly.
Now, this brings me to like my next, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but what do you wish people would say, or maybe stop doing to someone who has experienced loss? Miscarriage or reproductive loss.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I already sort of started to put my toe in that water of
we dipped into it.
Yeah. So I think any of the phrases that begin with "at least" should really be demolished or left at the door, at least. Like, oh wait, I just said that. Hold on, let me say that again. Sorry.
No worries.
So any of the phrases that begin with "at least" should be sequestered. They should be forever sort of left somewhere else, nowhere near a griever. And unfortunately, and this gets into tricky territory, I think unless you are very sort of well aware of how somebody feels from a religious perspective or a spiritual perspective, I think invoking God's name can be quite dangerous. So saying stuff like, God has a plan, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, everything happens for a reason. These things can be incredibly off-putting. And maybe to some people it is helpful to hear. But I have been shocked by the amount of patients who have told me that people just say this to them, not knowing how they feel about God. And saying to somebody who's had a stillbirth, for example, God doesn't give you more than you can handle is outrageous.
Yeah, like, I can't handle this. Sorry. Yeah, it is completely outrageous.
It's just, it really shows, unfortunately, the capacity or the limitations of the human psyche or the human spirit, that we cannot sort of just open our arms wide and say, I love you, I'm here for you, this makes no sense, and this is so unfair, and I'm here to listen and love you through it all.
It really can be that simple. I think a lot of people don't realize too that loss kind of, I mean, it affects your relationship, but it kind of affects your whole, identity and the way you view the world. And one huge part of that is what you think of God and the afterlife, and having
Yes.
someone come to you and say like, oh, God has a plan. And you're just like, well, I don't know what I believe anymore, but I don't know if I want to believe this. Like,
Exactly.
it really can be very jarring, like
Yes.
to someone, right? Yeah.
Incredibly.
Now, I know your background includes global public health as well, work across, different continents. I'm wondering how that, just seeing how different cultures has shaped the way that you do view miscarriage or motherhood or women's health in general.
Oh, I love this question. I was sure to include like sort of multicultural perspectives in my first book. Because, of course, there are countries and communities that see these things very differently. And I think it is really important for us to be aware of those perspectives. I think, unfortunately, in this country, the shame is so strong. And so that's been so much of my focus working in America. I mean, it's not like when I was working internationally, I wasn't seeing patients. So it wasn't like I was trying to help process their feelings. But, I do think that my focus has been on sort of normalizing talking about these things, but also wanting to really drill down on the fact that this is a normative outcome of pregnancy. Albeit incredibly sad, heartbreaking, anguish inducing, but it is natural. And I think a lot of other cultures see it that way, right? That this is not something that can be stopped. And so I do think we sort of have to hold that balance of like, of course, this is something we might want so badly and maybe even expect to just happen, on the first try and that everything works out wonderfully. So I think if we did in our country a better job of integrating pregnancy and infant loss as well as fertility struggles into our sex education programs, people would be a lot less shocked by the fact that not every time you have sex, you end up with a healthy pregnancy, right? So in this country, the focus is so much on, kind of scare tactics, I think, when it comes to talking about sex. So that if you have sex, you'll get a disease and you'll get pregnant, And so we're going to...
Meanwhile, there's people who are like doing it every day and they're like, what? That did not happen to me.
That's the thing. And so,
yeah.
And again, of course, sex ed needs to be age appropriate, developmentally sound. I get that. And of course, but there must be a way that we can sprinkle in the fact that not every pregnancy works out. Why do I think this is so important? I think that this would trickle down so that women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, who are not able to get pregnant or are not staying pregnant, they would at least have heard in their teens from somebody who knows stuff about stuff related to reproduction that this is possible. And again, it's not to scare kids, but it would be to sort of stave off the complete shock and awe that comes later when people are dumbfounded by the fact that they've been diagnosed with secondary infertility, for example.
And the shame too, right? Like, and when you reduce the shame, then people are able to support you more. So it really is, it sounds like a huge trickle effect, right?
That's right.
Like, I remember my first miscarriage, I always like known that happened. Like,
Yes.
I was totally taken off guard when it happened to me, and I had no idea what to do. Like, it really was shocking, like, to the world. It like kind of shattered my world. And I do feel like if I would have had some sort of gentle knowledge about it, that I would maybe know, like, it just wouldn't be so like earth shattering. It would still be obviously horrible and upsetting, and I would definitely deserve my grief. But I remember it like changed my perspective on the world. And like, maybe it wouldn't have done it so much if I had that a little bit more, right?
Yeah, I do think so. And yet, you know, because I too was totally bowled over by having the kind of miscarriage that I had had. And meanwhile, I was sitting with people talking about it all the time. So why did I not think it would happen to me? I think we live with a very robust sense of denial in order to live in this world, right? To leave the house, to get in a car, to get on a plane.
To survive.
To survive. And so I think we think things won't happen to us until they do.
Totally. I would love to talk about your new book. We've talked a lot about, you know, I had a miscarriage. You do have your Normalize It book now, your newest book, and that kind of expands that conversation, right, that we're having right now, expands it beyond miscarriage, you know, tackling those broader silences and shames that women might carry. I mean, talking to you, I'm kind of getting my answer already, but I really would love to know, like, what inspired you to write this book? What inspired you to expand that?
Yeah, it's an interesting background on this book, actually, because this mental health publisher came to me and asked me to write a book. So even though I had had some ideas for a second book, I wasn't there yet. And this opportunity was dropped in my lap, and I felt like absolutely I'm going to rise to the occasion and embrace it. And they wanted me to talk in the book about any and all things that I specialize in. And it took me about 3 seconds to realize that although I had been focusing on pregnancy loss for all these years, the patterns I had seen, the silence, the stigma, and the shame, actually apply to so many experiences and transitions and transformational moments in women's lives, you know, just over the course of the lifespan. So this book actually begins with menstruation, puberty, girlhood, and goes all the way through menopause and then some and everything in between. So motherhood, you know, choosing not to become a mother, not being able to stay pregnant, you know, so I get really into fertility and pregnancy loss in this book as well. But each chapter is kind of anchored through patient examples. These are, of course, fictitious patients. But I love the book because I feel like you get the experience of being a fly on a wall in a therapy session. And it's inspiring, I think, because there's so much evidence-based research throughout the book. So all the topics that I take on, there's so much research that kind of brings it alive. And yet the patient examples kind of bring this real sort of richness and level of intimacy. And it also, I think, invites the reader to resonate or not. But
It humanizes it
exactly. And I've just been hearing from so many people that even in certain chapters that don't really sort of specifically resonate with the reader, they were able, though, to find themselves connecting with the feelings that the patient was struggling with. So I feel like it's a real sort of expansion on my previous work. And I'm kind of here to just say, like, let's normalize talking about the tough stuff because it's not going away by ignoring it.
Well, one thing that I talk a lot about with my clients and my guests is like kind of like good girl syndrome.
Yes.
Where like we don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. We want to make sure everyone's happy or people please, don't want to ruffle any feathers. And even when you talked about girlhood, I was like, how amazing would it be to like start this with our little women, like, and
Yep.
instill this in them at a young age and be able to normalize these things all the way to womanhood so that, you know, break that shame on an early early age and then be able to be free from that as a grown woman, right? That would be amazing to break that.
I mean, why are girls feeling ashamed and embarrassed about menstruation? And then take that all the way through, because when you said if you had heard about miscarriage more or grief, you may not have been so surprised. Well, we could apply that to so many things in women's lives, including perimenopause and menopause.
That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Right? So it's like they say that perimenopause can go on for about 10 years in some cases. So if we don't know what we're looking for, if we don't have tools to employ when we get there, we are going to feel just as shocked and just as bowled over as we have in so many other areas of life previously. So it's education, but it's really a cultural shift. Why can we not integrate these important conversations early on so that we can all feel a sense of ease?
Yeah, like rather than suffering in silence, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm wondering, speaking of silences, you know, what are some of the biggest ones that you see or stigmas you hope that this book would help women kind of shed?
Oh, that's a hard one. Everything. No.
Yeah, it's true. Like, can't we just be us? Like, I always think of like, it's funny because when you think about men versus women, I just don't see them having as many like of these shameful things that we are carrying, like, and it makes you think, right? Like, why?
I know. I mean, that's like a whole other book, and I dare you to write it.
Book number 3.
I know. No, not for me, for you. Yes, it's very problematic, the fact that we watch our little infants and our toddler girls running around with no self-consciousness, just totally free. And then, as Dr. Carol Gilligan puts it, and she's included in my second book, her research, her qualitative research that's sort of game-changing, she noticed that puberty is the time when girls begin to surveil their voices. They begin to question their actions. They begin to quiet, the amount they say and the amount they raise their hand in class even, so what can we do to ultimately upend this, turn it over, have it be eradicated fully? That's what I'm trying to do. You're trying to do. I mean, I think so many of us want this. It's really sort of about a collective shift. And I think we just have to get culture on board, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm definitely all for that. That's why this podcast exists, like exactly what you said. Now, more of a personal question, I guess. Looking back, because now you said 2014 it started, so it's been 11 years. Like, what has surprised you the most about this journey that you've been on from, starting that conversation about miscarriage to now leading like of movement?
So my loss was October 11th, 2012, which is just befuddling to me. Like, where have all the years gone? And I
Coming
have
up too.
what?
It's coming up too.
I know. Yeah, I know. And it's interesting how it's changed so much over the years. And I look at my daughter who is going to be 12 in December. So it's like a real marker of time in that way as well, because she came after my loss. I have since, I don't know if you know this, but I have since gone through such an enormous and intense trauma. So it has actually kind of not overshadowed, I don't want to say, but it has kind of overtaken some of my energy and focus. I don't know if you know that I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah, I know.
A few weeks after my first book came out. And so somehow I was still able to write the second book, and I'm thrilled.
You really are a champion.
But I mean, you've probably also noticed that, at least on my Instagram page, I have not been posting about miscarriage on the daily the way that I used to. And I mean, in a way, my first book was really about sort of, here's my, not parting gift, but like, here is the culmination of so many years of writing and talking about the topic. But did I think it would come to a grinding halt and that I would be diagnosed with cancer? Absolutely not. But it's just made it more difficult, I think, for me to give and give and give in the miscarriage space the way that I wanted to and loved doing before.
Well, your world has like expanded into another world, right? Like it really is, like you talked about before, like you never knew
exactly
what loss was like until you experienced it. You never knew what cancer was like until you experienced it.
It's the last thing in the world that I thought I would ever experience as a young person, for sure. Never thought. Never did I ever.
How are you doing now?
I think I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's been, it's now been a number of years, but it is quite a process. The griefs that, because I think people think of it in a binary way. Oh, you survived, therefore you're good. And it's like, well, the grief of getting a diagnosis, the grief of having to go through surgeries and lose, your breasts that you may have taken for granted or may have loved your whole life or have meaning to you in terms of your identity as a woman. So there's all of these sort of hidden griefs, just like within miscarriage, I guess you could say, that people don't want to face and don't want to hear about and don't necessarily want to deal with. But I'm luckily feeling well and, just feel so proud that I've been able to put this second book in the world. And, I'm not getting on a soapbox about breast cancer the way I did about miscarriage. It has a different meaning to me. And I feel like luckily the cancer world has done such an amazing job of raising awareness and talking about it and destigmatizing it. But, I will forever be committed to pregnancy and infant loss and life after. And in my practice, that's primarily what I'm talking about every single day.
Well, supporting women, right? And we're all for that in any sense of the word. If it helps women become more free from the shame's the big one in this conversation, then it's all, it's all part of the greater purpose, right?
Exactly.
Now, I'm wondering, because my next...
I know you have to ask a final question because I don't want my patient to call while we're...
No problem.
Okay.
Well, let's close it off here and maybe you can help you can give some insight to our listeners. But I'm wondering, like, if people want to connect with your work and they want to support your mission and they want to like join this movement, whether it be specifically miscarriage or loss, or it be like just normalizing a woman's experience.
Yes.
How would you suggest that they do that?
Well, they can find me on Instagram at I Had a Miscarriage. They can also visit my website at drjessicazucker.com. And my books are available everywhere books are sold. You can always DM me, you can email me, get in touch in a variety of ways.
I love that. Well, thank you, Dr. Jessica Zucker. We are so appreciative of your time and your story. And I just want to also just acknowledge that you are a cancer survivor. And I see that. And I know that that is a plight, to say the least. Obviously, I haven't dealt with cancer, but I see that and I honor that. And I really just want to congratulate you it's a big deal that you wrote another book after that. And I really see that. And we really value your work and our community, our Lost Mom community, women in general. We just so appreciate you and really appreciate you sharing today.
Oh, that means the world to me. Thank you for all that you do as well in supporting women after loss. It's profound.
Thank you so much, Jessica. If you enjoyed today's episode and you are looking to feel a little less alone in life after loss, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can continue hearing real, honest stories from mothers who've walked this path too, and to stay up to date with all future episodes of The Rainbow Connection. If you're looking to connect more, Instagram is where I hang out most, so come and join me in a beautiful community of lost moms for PAL-specific birth education, real-life grief talk, and deep solidarity. You can find me at the.doula.life. And don't forget to check out today's show notes for any resources mentioned in this episode, or head to thedoulalife.ca/podcast for more. And remember, you are never alone. I'll see you in the next episode.